there, book lovers. I'm so glad you're joining me on this again and again author interview with Josie Siler, the author of the children's book, Howie's Broken Hee-Haw. I'm so excited to share this book and this sweet author with you. Be sure to stay tuned to the end to hear some big news from Josie and what I have planned for next year. Happy reading. There she is. Hello, Josie.
Hello.
How are you today?
I am good. How are you?
We're doing well today. It's December 1st. November's done. Ready for the Christmas season.
Yes. I am excited I got this technology to work.
Yes. That is always a win in my book.
It is.
Well, Miss Josie, why don't you start by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I live in the chilly, snowy state of Wisconsin, and I'm thankful we don't have a couple feet of snow like they do in some places, but we do have snow on the ground. It's very cold. I think it's warmed up to about 30 today, which the sun is out. It actually feels good, which is sad, but yeah, I've lived here pretty much my whole life except when I have gone on adventures places and schooling and things like that. I love to read. I have a motorcycle that I love to ride. I am a Harley girl. That. I know, right? So this is something fun about me. My health has not allowed me to ride in several years, so I'm actually kind of looking to sell it, but that makes me sad too. But I do have my license, and I do love to ride motorcycle when my body allows it.
There you go.
I live with chronic illness, hence the when my body allows it thing.
Yes.
But yeah, I've been writing for a few years. I have my first picture book, which is super exciting. And yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Awesome. Well, we love Howie's little story. And did you always want to be a children's author?
Actually, no. That really surprised me. God has a sense of humor because I grew up in a very small town, which I still live in. I was the only child in town growing up. My brother and I, we had, I think, a sibling pair up the street who were like the only other kids, but they were about our age too.
Oh.
And so I didn't grow up babysitting. I grew, the whole town when I was growing up was older people, which I loved. And so basically anyone my age and younger always kind of scared me because I grew up with, all these sweet old ladies like spoiling me rotten. And I love picture books. I love reading, and so that has always been a love of mine. But I never thought I would actually write for children because I don't know children well. I love children, but I just don't have a lot of them in my life. And so God was like, guess what you're going to do? And so it's been a super fun adventure. It's been so fun, like meeting kids at book signings and things like that. So yeah, it was a surprise.
God's good at that.
He is. He really is.
Well, what was your inspiration for Howie's Broken Hee-Haw?
I didn't know it until after the book came out, but it's basically my own story of finding out that I am not broken, but that the Lord has given me things that I think are weaknesses that He is using for His glory. And the thought of this book, in fact, the first half of the book was written one night when I had insomnia. I couldn't sleep, and I wrote the book on my cell phone in my notes app, the first part of it, and a couple nights later, I couldn't sleep. I added a little bit more to it, and I told a few people the idea. They loved it, so I finished the book, and it ended up being my first one. And I feel like almost like I didn't even write it because the Lord just gave me this idea. And during my first interview, it dawned on me that, oh my goodness, I wrote my story.
Yes, yeah, very true.
I have such a sense of humor.
And it's such a great theme and story to tell kids because we can focus on not being like everybody else and see it as a bad thing, but God knows exactly who we need to be and how we need to be to influence and glorify Him. And for kids to know that at such a young age is a gift.
Yeah, I feel like it's the book that I wish I would have understood when
Yes.
I was a kid. And so basically all of my writing that I do for kids, I write to the younger version of me. That's how I do it, because I'm like, well, what did I need at that age? And what
Yes.
would I have liked? And I know the world is so different now. And so I'm like, okay, Holy Spirit, take that and run with it.
And what is it? I think C.S. Lewis said, if a children's book is only for children, then it's not a good children's
I
book.
love that quote. Yes.
And so, yeah, it's one of my favorites. Well, what part of this book was the most fun to work on?
It was the hardest, but also the most fun, was getting the hee-haw right. And so that's probably the part of the book that changed the most times, but it was also the most fun to come up with the hee-haw, hallelujah, which is what Howie does, because his hee-haw is broken. And so I wanted it to be a little bit hard to say, but also fun to say and have a rhythm to it. And so, yes, it was challenging, but it was really fun coming up with all of these ridiculous ways of hee-hawing.
I bet you had some, that's not a part of your writing that was probably done in a coffee shop, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So fun. Now, not only have you written this wonderful little children's book, but you also orchestrate a monthly magazine called Broken But Priceless. Can you tell us a little bit about that project?
Yeah, so my ministry partner, Erin Elizabeth Austin, and I, Erin started this ministry called Broken But Priceless Ministries 13 years ago now, something like that. Wow. And about 2 years in, we met and online, and we just decided that, you know what? God has both of us in the same place. She needed help with her ministry. And so I joined her as her ministry partner, and we have been going strong for several years now. The magazine is in, I believe, the 9th year now that we've been publishing this magazine. It's free for people. We have an amazing team of writers who write for us, and it's all for the chronic illness community. And so we want people who are sick or caregivers to know that even though our bodies may be broken, we're priceless in God's eyes. And so we have actually expanded out of the chronic illness community a little bit, just because it's a message that everyone needs to hear. And so we've been telling people, this is for me too. People are telling us that we want this too. We're being blessed by this too, and being encouraged. And so, yeah, it's a quarterly magazine. It's free. Go to brokenbutpriceless.com. You can find out more info, and yeah, it just comes to your email inbox, and it's full of articles and encouragement and hope for caregivers, chronically ill, or anyone that needs to know just how much God loves them.
Just to be reminded that stained glass windows are beautiful because of broken pieces of glass, right?
Absolutely.
All right. Well, what does your family think of your writing?
Wow, they have always been super supportive of anything that I've done. They are my best cheerleaders. My brother still is trying to get me to write a book about his Chihuahua Jaws. And so maybe down the road that will, I know, he's so cute. Oh my goodness. So yeah, they have some ideas, but my mom is always the first one to read anything that I write, and she is really good at catching like proofreading errors, and so she does that for me. And yeah, they're great.
That's awesome. I know my children are often my first beta audience.
Yes.
For better or worse.
I do not have children, I go to the parents. I'm like, Mom,
parents
be brutally honest.
Parents know.
They do.
I don't know. Kids can be brutally honest.
Yes. That's good for us, though, because I'd rather hear it now than after the book is out.
Very true. Very true. Let's see. What has been the most impactful book in your life, other than the Bible?
I have a copy of it here. It is called The Rest of the Gospel. And the subtitle is When the Partial Gospel Has Worn You Out. And it's by Dan Stone and David Gregory. Super, super life-changing book for me. I am a doer by nature. And so this book really helped me understand that, you know what? Jesus has accomplished everything. There's nothing left for me to do except walk with him. And it was very freeing to know that, I don't have to do this and this and this to be approved or loved by God or other people. It was, it's a great book.
Sounds like a lot of freedom can be won in those pages.
Yes, absolutely.
Very cool. When did you first call yourself a writer, Josie?
I remember when I was a kid, I liked writing even then. I took a creative writing class in summer school. If I remember correctly, I didn't do very well in it. They maybe encouraged some other pursuits, but I don't really listen very well, and so here I am. I would say probably 2015. My ministry partner Erin, she invited me to Blue Ridge for the first time, and yay! And so the Blue Ridge Mountain Christian Writers Conference, I attended that in 2015, and that's really when I'm like, okay, I'm going to really try to do this writing thing and call myself a writer and try to get a book published and all of that fun stuff.
Right. It's always important and kind of mind altering to call yourself a writer. It's like, wait a minute. Oh yeah, I'm kind of doing this, aren't I?
But the funny thing that is, I like to tell people that I'm not a writer. I am a child of God who writes. And that's one of the things that also came out of this book. It's like, how do we identify ourselves? How do we, who am I? Because writing could go away. I mean, I know this with chronic illness. Anything and everything can go away in a moment. But what doesn't go away is our identity in Christ. And when we find that in him, it's like, oh, I'm not a writer. I am, a child of God, a daughter of the King who happens to write. And so that's been a revelation that I've had too. It's like, oh, but I still call myself a writer. It's fine.
Yeah. There's the big umbrella and the small categories.
Yes, exactly.
Well, too fun. Well, if you could spend the day with a popular writer or any writer, dead or alive, who would you want to spend your day with?
Oh, dead or alive. Well, I came prepared for an alive one. Carolyn George, she wrote a book called Dearest Josephine. That's how I discovered her, because my name's Josephine. And so I had to read this book, right?
Of course.
But I follow Carolyn on Instagram, and she just seems like a super fun person. She is always off having adventures, and I'm like, oh, I would like to have an adventure with her one day. Get me out of my comfort zone a little.
Okay, well, to dig a little deeper, who of past authors would you choose from?
Oh, let's see. I think I have to pick C.S. Lewis. I mean, Narnia, it's great. Like, I would love to pick his brain and just be in his world for a little while and see what that's like.
Have you read Once Upon a Wardrobe?
Yes, I have it. It's right back there on my favorite shelf. Yes, I love that book. So good.
I wanted to be that main character. Like, yes, I want to just go sit
I did too.
his living room and just soak it all in.
Yeah, so good.
Too fun. Well, what is your favorite book, Josie?
This is a hard question.
I know, but it's a good one.
So many favorites. So if I have to pick one favorite book, I picked one that the message has stuck with me the longest since reading it. I'm the kind of person who will read a book and thoroughly absorb it and know that I love it, but can't really remember what it was about. And so, but the message of this book, like, I don't remember the details, but the message of God's love for us and how unworthy we are, yet how much he loves us anyway, really stuck with me. It's Demon, a Memoir by Tosca Lee.
I know
you're a Tosca fan too.
I am a Tosca fan.
I love this book. It's not as scary as it sounds.
Right.
But it's basically this, this demon making this guy write his memoirs, write his story. And so we're looking at all of history from the perspective of a fallen angel. And we fell, and look what happened. But you humans mess up all the time, and God still loves you. And so just this message of like God's unconditional love for us has stuck with me for years.
Yes, that's a good one. I love Tosca's work.
Me too.
Well, it helps that you know her too.
He's awesome.
Well, when did your writing journey begin, Josie?
Well, I would say when I was a kid, because I've always processed things through writing. I was super, super, super shy and introverted and didn't really like to talk to people very much. Everybody scared me except old ladies. And so And so a lot of my processing has been through writing. I process my emotions that way. When I went through, I was preparing to be a missionary and serve overseas. I was appointed in my first 4-year term. And then like, I've always been sickly, but like chronic illness really hit. My body just exploded with all of these crazy things going on. And so I had to keep a journal for my prayer warriors, like my first online blog, for the people who were on my prayer team before I went overseas. And then that transitioned into myself processing emotions of being sick. And it took me a full 2 years to comprehend that chronic meant I'm not getting better unless the Lord heals me.
Right.
And so just writing through that whole process, and then that turned into a blog, which turned into maybe wanting to write. I thought my first book would be a nonfiction book, kind of about my journey. And like, that's nowhere on the radar anymore. Maybe someday, but I feel like, oh, my journey is far from over. Like, I don't think it's time yet, but maybe one day.
Maybe one day.
So I think it's kind of been a slow burn where God has always used writing in my life, and now he's using it to bless others too. So that's kind of cool.
It's fun. And it's usually when our passions and our burdens collide, that's where we find our purpose. And so it's great to see.
Beautiful line.
I won't claim it. It's from Rebecca Lyons in her book, You Are Free. But I love it so much because it just
that's a good one.
spoke to me as because why I want to write children's books is for my boys, to write books for my boys, to have quality books that point them to Christ. And so that led me there. Well, what is your favorite children's book other than your own?
I have so many like modern favorites, and I felt really bad picking one. And so I did my favorite book from childhood, which is The Muffin Muncher. I have no idea why. Like, I loved this little dragon book about this dragon who loves muffins so much. It's one of the serendipity books. There's a whole series of serendipity books with different characters, and I had a ton of them, but this one was always my favorite. It is well loved.
Yeah, there's a book in my husband's family called The Blue Brontosaurus. That is just like the book. And they had looked for it for years because it was out of print. And I think one Christmas we got to open that up, and everybody was so excited to see the little blue brontosaurus again.
There's those books that they have nostalgia tied to them, you know, and now I read it, I'm like, well, that's kind of a nice book.
That's kind of weird. Why did I like this?
I was obsessed with it.
It's fun, the books that capture our hearts and our minds.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, what are you reading right now?
Well, I just finished Authentically Izzy by Pepper. It is the most delightful book. I loved it so much. I just finished that last night. And so I'm in between books. I'm not sure what I'm going to pick next for like my fiction novel, but I am going to start this book. It's I Wonder, Glennis Nellis. Is that say? I never know how to say
Glennis Nellis.
Yes. Okay. Yes. So I am wanting to start this because I thought this would be a really fun read, like during December. It is I Wonder, Exploring God's Grand Story. It's an illustrated Bible. And so it'll be, you know, a quick read, and I can read through this in December and just get like a children's overview of the Bible before Christmas. So I thought that would be a good one to start next.
Very fun. What is it? I recently joined a book club, and it's been really weird to read adult books. I'm usually reading lots of children's books and lots of middle grade books. I'm like, oh, this is an adult book.
This is different.
Oh yeah, there are those out there.
Yes.
Well, Josie, where can people find out more about you and your books?
I am at josiesiler.com, and there's links to all of my other social media accounts. I'm Josie_Siler at most places, or if it hasn't been taken already, just Josie Siler. But yeah, all links to everything are at josiesiler.com.
Awesome. Now you have something special to tell us.
I do. I'm
so excited.
On a second book. So all of my books to date have been books. Well, it's one. And I'm also part of a couple compilations, one coming out soon and one that's already out. But everything that I've written that even hasn't been picked up yet it's already done, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
this is my first book where I pitched some samples and now I have to actually write it. But it is called Howie and Friends 90 Devotions for Kids. And so it's going to be a
Aw.
Howie devotional book. And I'm so excited about this. Again, totally outside my comfort zone. I have never written devotions for children. And so God is really stretching me, but I'm having so much fun. They're all animal devotions where Howie meets
Aw.
another animal. And it's going to be a biblical animal. And they get to know each other. They have a little conversation. And so I have been having so much fun researching animals. Like,
Yeah, I bet.
I always loved animals, but I'm searching like quirky things about, animals that we all know or animals maybe that we don't know so well.
Mm-hmm.
They are just fascinating. Like, God is so creative. So I'm having a lot of fun, but yeah,
Way
90
fun.
devotions is a lot. So
That is a
it
lot.
is a challenge, but it's been great. I
Oh,
can't wait
too
for this book to come
fun.
out. And thank you to Michelle Medlock Adams because she's the one who had the idea for a Howie devotional. So yay, Michelle, thank you.
Too fun. I know Howie is such a great character that it'll
Yes.
be fun to see him interact with other little characters
Yes, I'm
and
so excited to continue him on, and it's not the way we thought it would be, but
right.
God's timing and ways are perfect. It's probably going to come out summer of 2024, so we
Okay.
have a little while yet to
A
wait,
little
but
bit.
but
I have no
I'll
doubt
share
that if we
some of the process along the way, so it'll be fun.
yes, exactly. We gotta watch Howie walk down the road a little bit.
Yes.
Too fun. Well, Josie, thank you so much for being with us and sharing this sweet little story with us and a little bit about your journey and inspiration. I look forward to seeing more about Howie and his friends on your Instagram feed
Yeah.
as you come, and so excited for what's coming next.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. This has been a blast.
It's been a joy. We'll see you later.
Bye.
Thank you for joining our fun chat today. I hope you enjoy getting to know Josie, and I can't wait to hear more about Howie and his friends' next adventures. Next month will be Christmas, so there'll be no interview, but we will look at all the books that we have talked about this year. Then, in 2023, I'll be chatting with Abby Feldkamp about her new board book, Wonderful, Marvelous, Magnificent You. See you then. Happy reading.